All right, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Since Soul and Black wants to respond, especially to me, let's go ahead and give it a gander. First of all, as I said before, your history is your history. Now, I asked questions about 1.0 because I didn't bring it up. Y'all bring it up. When I got here, when I got to this side of YouTube, people were telling me about the first Black gender war and what happened in what they call Manosphere 1.0. So I expected y'all to tell me what the history was. Do I need to ask somebody? No. Do I even care what the history was on YouTube? No, I didn't. All I cared about was what was going on at the time and what the conversations were at the time, and to get a feel for it on this side of YouTube at the time, because you wander into a community such as it is and you listen to people and see who's who, what you're talking about or what they're talking about, so you can kind of make your content fit into the space that you're in. It was never my intent to come over to the Black side of YouTube. I was convinced by Truth Quad 40, another brother whose name escapes me right now, and Black Ram. They said we need to go over to the Black side of YouTube. We were on the MGTOW side of YouTube. I was on the MGTOW side of YouTube to do research. I wasn't really there to be a content creator. I was there to learn exactly what their issue was. And trust and believe, I hate to say it, at the time, the white side of YouTube was doing way better research. They were. I got a chance to sharpen my arguments on the white side of YouTube. They say that Barbarossa was Black Manosphere 1.0. I don't have a clue because he never spoke on it. In fact, Black Manosphere, as you call it, the name didn't even come up until later. And basically, Don Calypso was the one who told me about the Black gender wars. And I did ask him who's who and what happened. He always talks about Black man vent. I was actually asking him who's who and what happened. And he was telling me, you guys, they pushed you off of YouTube and you went to Gen X. Now, me coming up, I never heard of Gen X. Maybe Gen X was defunct before I got here, which to me at the time was okay. It's irrelevant. But people kept sending me videos, listen to him, listen to Thug Titian. Jason Black, I already knew Jason Black from Facebook in his TMI section before I even got here. I already knew Tariq Nasheed from like 2009, 2008, 2009. He used to listen to Tariq Nasheed, but it wasn't from YouTube. He had his own broadcast that I used to check out because somebody had suggested him. But as far as I'm concerned, I was already on internet radio. That started with my partner back in 2003 when it was still very, very new, a lot more expensive. All the other different mediums didn't come out till later. Even podcasting was still relatively new back then. So I saw this stuff come up from the ground up. YouTube was, just this kids medium. Facebook wasn't even a thing yet. They were still working on MySpace. So MySpace had just popped up and then abruptly crashed and burned. Because the stuff that you guys are doing, we were doing on, what was it? And we're doing this stuff on other sites, other places. This is well before the internet was really defined. These discussions are already happening. We were having these discussions back in the late 80s, early 90s. This was one-on-one before social media. We're already having these discussions. These discussions are not new. When you guys came about, you think that it's new. It wasn't new. Thing is that now you had an independent platform. You could actually broadcast it, which made sense. As large as you think it was, the Black Manosphere, the Manosphere period, the Black Manosphere especially was very, very small. It still is small. It's not huge. It still is small. But if you think it had a blazing fire, well, maybe it did. The thing is, it didn't have the impact. It just didn't. And trust and believe, when I came here, it was small. I just took the problems as they came up. But before I go further, let me get this out of the way. Man, I don't give a damn who 1.0 respects or deigns as worthy. I don't give a damn about whether I belong to 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, whatever .0. I don't give a shit. I didn't give a shit when I got here. I didn't come here to YouTube in the first place because somebody asked me to do YouTube content way back in 2008, 2009. I wasn't interested. I was already doing 2 radio programs a week on the internet. I was asked to do a third. I didn't want to do a third. I had a family to take care of. I had studies to do. We were working on something else. We were working on helping out the continent of Africa in the mid-2000s. We weren't thinking about some online gender squabble that you call a war. In fact, when I first got here, it didn't make any sense because it wasn't a war, it was a squabble. A war of words about your reputation. It didn't make the impact that you thought it did. So it's whether you think that it's going to hurt me or affect me, that you don't respect me, I don't give a shit. Let's put it that way. I don't give a shit. I never gave a shit. Half my subs don't even like me. And I said that from the very beginning. My channel was designed to accommodate 500 subscribers. That's all I wanted. That was enough for me. It was enough for me to do what I needed to do. 36,000? I never needed that many. We didn't need that many. When I had my think tank and Bianchi was part of your 1.0, we had our own think tank. We were doing stuff back in the mid 2000s and making impacts with our little bitty think tank. With our little bitty think tank, we were making impact all over the world. That taught me that you don't need a lot of numbers. You don't need to be famous. You don't need a whole lot of respect. All you need is a few people in key positions or in key spots with the right information. That's all you need. And I still believe that today. And that's what I hang my hat on. Research that's tuned toward key people. That's why my day ones have been with me since I had a YouTube channel on MGTOW. The white MGTOWs are still with me. I got a MGTOW channel that has 11,000 subscribers and I don't even post over there. I could care less about clout or respect. I care about impact and respect. Not even respect, just impact. Getting the job done. A lot of stuff I've introduced on my channel you'd have never heard anyplace else. Still don't hear anyplace else. You wouldn't. COVID would have caught you blindsided. If the thing is if we hadn't pulled that stuff out in January, starting in January, and started talking about this stuff. Nobody on Black YouTube was talking about this shit. Nobody. In January when I started doing this. Nobody talked about the UBI in 2016. Nobody would have even known what the World Economic Forum was on Black YouTube. Never heard of it. People thought I was full of shit back then. As per usual. I care about impact. You talked about, and what cracks me up is when Black people say things on YouTube, especially to me, okay, about YouTube stripping off hydroxychloroquine. I said, okay. Now, I know it isn't true because if you had watched Chris Mortensen in Peak Prosperity back in February when he first mentioned it, and then people started asking about it behind the scenes, you'd have known that Dr. Dunbar actually did a video on hydroxychloroquine. One of my subs, one of my eggs, one of my favorites, one of my PhDs, PhD friends, they're not mine, they don't belong to me, but he actually did a breakdown on it, hydroxychloroquine, way back then. He was the one that actually said that the test kits that the California was using was no good 3 weeks before it came out in the news. We had 3 ICU nurses telling you about what the effects of COVID-19 was in the ICU and what the doctors wouldn't tell you online. They were there gowned up inside their ICU while they were talking to us. And everything that they said, that they did, they said here on my channel and Art's channel. 2 months later, you see it come out in the news. Why is that? Why do I get once a week a text, a message, even in a chat? BGS, you were right. I always have to say right about what? It's always something I said a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that somebody thought I was crazy for saying at the time. It's called impact. Give people information, give people language to actually talk to other people that are actually in power so you can have a conversation, so you can make friends, you can make contacts, and they can make contacts. You can pass information back and forth so the information can come back to us so we can do research. We can prepare ourselves. Spun off just here. I spun off 3 think tanks just here on YouTube, just 3 of them, 3 private think tanks. They go on every day. The visible one is the Black Brain Trust, which is a spinoff. Now, do they go to Latin America? Yes, they do. Do they go to have they been to the continent? Yes, they have, and talked to people and conversed people and brought stuff to them and brought stuff back. It's a process. Just like it took from 2003 to damn near 2013, which is basically 10 years for the Chinese to actually decide to invest in the East African corridor. We knew it was coming. Our group knew it was coming. We saw it coming from the ground up, and we know why it was coming from the ground up. Most people don't know. Some things I can say, some things I cannot say on YouTube because it's walking a little bit too close to the line. I am not worried about YouTube shutting down my channel. Could care less. If they shut it down, they shut it down. It's one channel. They stopped me from live streaming before. I've had 2 strikes before. The last time the women came at us, I had 2 strikes. A lot of people blocked their channel, took their information down, hid their channel. Okay. Everybody was telling me to do the same. No, they're going to take it. They're going to take it. It survived by the skin of its teeth, but it's still here. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many subs I got. It doesn't matter if I have a channel. I can always get the information through somebody else. Now, about hydroxychloroquine that you say that is so dangerous that YouTube actually sanitized it from the site. Now, like I said, I know that wasn't true. I know it was bullshit because I followed the stuff. I have followed the stuff since January. So, just on a whim, I said, let me do my due diligence. Let me find out if he is correct, that they sanitized hydroxychloroquine or the information about it. Now, were they demonetizing people that talked about COVID? Yeah, they were. We all talked about them demonetizing COVID-19 news. But at the time, I was demonetized anyway, had been demonetized for over a year. I didn't care. But hydroxychloroquine was not taken off of YouTube. It never was. Were there some radical people that kind of went over the line? Maybe. But I went back and I just thumbed through it, hit search. I stopped like at 110 videos on HCQ. Hydroxychloroquine doesn't do what you think it does. Is it a treatment? Sure. Azithromycin is another one. Vitamin C, vitamin D is another one. There's a couple of others that they can use. You normally use it as a cocktail. If you had done your research and done your homework, HCQ is not illegal in Mexico or Brazil or Spain. We're just going to concentrate on Brazil and Mexico. After the United States, the number of deaths and hospitalizations is Brazil and Mexico. United States, it has to be prescribed because you can't take a lethal dose of the stuff, which is what happened in Brazil. They were giving people too much. They were killing people. They were giving people heart attacks with the stuff. In Mexico, they were producing it like crazy. They were giving it away like candy. But they still have the 3rd highest death rate in the world, even with HCQ. It doesn't do what you think it does. If it does, every place else in the world that doesn't have the same restrictions that we have would be taking it, including Italy, including the UK, including Spain, including Ecuador and Colombia. Last time I heard, Colombia is headed towards 2nd lockdown. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. If HCQ was a wonder drug, the first place that you would have seen it have its effects is in Latin America, which you can actually go get it over the counter. It doesn't have to be prescribed, but that's aside. But that's you not doing your homework. As far as starting a fire, I could care less about starting a freaking fire or embers or whatever you think you're going to pound your chest about. I'd rather not even be known. The only advantage for me being known is I can pull other people through. That's it. Because if you have a good idea, somebody's going to steal it. That's called a viral meme, sir. And it's better if they steal it. I heard a white guy on Donovan Sharp's channel using all the points that I've gathered over the years, every last one of them, down to the point that if he had my voice and had my face, you'd have swore that was me. And he's not the first one. I've had people change their mind about what the black pill was because I was asked to present it. I was asked to present it by my good friend, Dr. Johnson, because he said nobody understands it like I did. which is why I did it. Half the time I don't present this stuff because I necessarily want to. I might present it once or twice. Say, man, you ought to put that up. And then I had a disagreement with other people that thought black pill would meant incels. Until I went back and did research, which most Negroes do, which niggas do not do, is research, and found out exactly where the quote came from, and showed it to all the white MGTOWs and the white red pillars, and then the black red pillars. This is where it came from, and this is what it meant. And basically, guess what? When he introduced the term, he said the exact same thing that I said, with the exact same meaning. The biggest thing why I said the war is over, let's put it this way. The biggest thing why I said the war is over, because just like Alexander, when he died, and he said there was no more realms to conquer, what happened to the Greeks? They started fighting amongst each other. Why? Because there's nobody else to fight. There's nobody else to go up against. There's no women. They started fighting each other, which is exactly why I say the war as it was defined is over. And what you're fighting against, you don't understand, because you think that it is a choice about what women are doing, because you think they have that much free will, because you don't understand the mechanism of how human beings and human psyches and human cultural patterns work, because you're not interested. You want something simple, which is many times as I've shown you it, demonstrated it, pointed to it, showed you documentation for it about how cultural patterns work and why they work, and pointed to the books. I damn near have to basically sit you guys' asses down like fucking 6-year-olds and scribble it out in fucking crayon, which frustrates me. Now, when me and Valdez talked about the war being over, and we sat down and talked about it, Don Calypso called me the next day. And when you called Don Calypso, it was right in the middle of our conversation. So I told him to take it and get back to me. And when he got back on the phone, he said what was going on about the war not being over was exactly what I said. It's called mission creep. You're redefining the objectives. But the thing is, redefining the objectives means you have to redefine your tactics. You can't keep going back and forth with broads about the same old goddamn thing and have a different mission, because your fight is with different people and bigger people. Bigger groups with much, much more power than black women. Black women are an effect, not a cause. And when I came here, I could not believe the bullshit that was going on, because what you guys were talking about, it was so simple to solve. The thing is, you guys didn't want to take the solutions. Oh, black women, they don't respect us, and they don't. Well, you know, it was obvious. That's why SBN was obvious. Leave. Take the best woman that's for you, that you can find for you. When SYSBN, before they actually named it that, with Mad Bus Driver, when they first came to me in 2015, when my channel just got started, they started talking about the so-called educated lanes, which is something that I hadn't heard before, that Sergeant Willie Pete described himself as. It's like, okay, educated lanes, so what? Well, we can't get women on this side. Okay, go find different women. We don't have to make you can make a big to-do out of it if you want to, and tout your successes. Okay, that's fine. But to me, the answer was obvious. Like, oh, well, of course, you can't find women that rock with you in your own community. You go elsewhere, obviously. Well, most of the black women in the United States are bad. Okay, you figure 30% of black men are married. You have at the time you had 17 million adult black males. And if you talk about the age range of the black males that were affected, that needed wives or needed whatever, right? You're probably down to like, what? You take a quarter of them off town, like 12 million black guys that need wives. If you don't want to marry out, you can import 12 million black women from the continent or the Caribbean or Latin America. Just import them. Start slowly but surely importing your wives. Go over and get them, bring them back. Start a movement. Import wives for black men. If the black women don't want to get on board, replace them. Why argue with them? Replace them. I said that back then. But the problem is not the black woman. The problem is that you're wedded to the idea of being with them. And I respect that. You want an ADOS community. You want an ADOS family. Okay. Now you need to understand what your woman is like. Not just her being resistant and not just the bullshit that they do, because they do bullshit. And half the time they do bullshit they don't even understand. They just do it. Like the Joker says, I just do things. Black women just do things. And if you sit down and talk to them, we find out that shit is being passed down from generation to generation to generation, which is exactly what Moynihan said, which is exactly what Frazier said. Stuff being passed down. Now, Frazier said this was a black matriarchy back in the 30s. That's what he said. And there was a book written by a Jewish guy called The Black Matriarchy. Moynihan called it a black matriarchy. But who disagrees with it? It was you guys. Manosphere 1.0. We believe in black patriarchy. Good luck. You never had one. Well, I lived under patriarchy. Well, you lived under a patriarchal stance. If you really go back, and nobody actually goes back and looks at what the definition of a patriarchy actually is, which boggles my mind. Nobody actually goes back and does research, okay? You go by talking points. You pass talking points from one person to another. Nobody actually goes back and look and said, okay, what is a patriarchy? What's a real one? And how does it function versus what we have in the United States? Seems reasonable. But the thing is, 1.0 didn't do that. Or what we think of 1.0 didn't do that. If you did, point me to the tapes. Because all I hear is talk. All I hear is talk. And remember, you have to know who to look for and go search for it. You don't have to search for shit. You come up with the evidence. Because personally, I don't care. I do not care. I rock with the people that I rock with. Basically, one of my subs, one of my good subs, Ronan Martin, he was Manosphere 1.0, evidently. He's never said anything. Not to me. So you might not respect me, but I have a whole bunch of other so-called 1.0s that do, including one of your A-Spoon Coons that you called this morning. Don Calypso recruited me into this Manosphere. And then when I was on the Obsidians, Angry Man recruited me. I've been rocking with Angry Man ever since. I didn't know who he was. He brought me in right after Don Calypso. Don Calypso brought me in first and then Angry Man. You tell me. You cool with me, Q? I don't know you, man. I've always done my own thing. Trust and believe, Valdez has disagreed with me. Don Calypso has disagreed with me. Obsidian, whoever has disagreed with me. I could care less. I do what I think is right. I make the impact that I have. I have a mission of my own. But the thing is, I get tired of the cleanup when people keep dragging old stuff back up. Let these people stay dead. Let those chicks stay dead. It's one thing if they come up on your panel or into your chat. Now, I try to be respectful when I had my channel up, not kill them too bad. But if I really wanted to go all black pill on them, I squash that in a minute. But anyway, before this goes too far, I want to tell you how to end the gender war if you really want to end it. But nobody does. Nobody really does, because at the end of the day, you love these black women. Stop lying. That's the real secret. You don't hate them. You love them to death. That's why you still go back and forth with them. You love them to death. That's the real secret. Because if it wasn't, you say what I would say. Stop putting the onus on yourself. Put the onus on them. And I would say the black community, the black men need to go MGTOW. In a MGTOW in the sense that I don't care. You say let the black community burn? Psst, nice statement. Black chick come up talking about the black community, what you ain't done. Say, you know what? If you care so much, you get yourself together. It doesn't matter what you think we've done for you, because we have choice. If the black community goes, it goes. Because it's not up to black men to save the black community. It's up to them to save it. If they deem it savable, that's what you tell them. It's up to you. Compete, which is something they've never done, which is compete. They've never competed for their men. And it has resonated. Me saying that has resonated throughout the Manosphere. Compete. You don't want to compete? Kick rocks, which is the theme that got Cynthia G almost put off of YouTube. But our black compatriots actually went in and saved her. Black women are not that difficult. You're making them a monster that they aren't. They're not monsters, because if they're really that bad, you'd be trying to get away from them. They're not that bad. To trust and believe, The Z's and the younger millennials and the Z's do not have this problem, which is why black women are crying or black girls are crying. They have a legitimate gripe about black men not being interested in them. If you really want to end the war, if you really want to end what you think is a war, the war has been over. You're waiting for them to do what? Bow down and kiss your feet? For what? That's why the black men now are attacking each other, because there is nobody else to fight. Women aren't fighting you anymore. There's nothing to fight for. All the little stuff that you were talking about has been debunked and squashed and killed, which could have been killed years ago. All this haranguing and throwing up hands and thinking that you made impact, psst, get out of here. The only surprise that people had is that you were allowed to say it on YouTube, on social media. That's the only shock that people find. Oh, you can actually say that. Okay, because YouTube allows you to get away with it. Now, maybe you guys did clear the way for YouTube, which is something that I said in my video. Everybody's built on what has gone before. And because I said the war is over, that's how come you guys went all bananas. Oh, the war is not over. That means the war was never defined in the first place. Define it. So I told Valdez, define it. What is the objective? Really? What's the objective? What are the points? What's the aims? Now, Soul and Black just went on for like 26 minutes. Did not define shit. Did not define shit. Still hasn't. Still nobody has. I'm still waiting on it. What are your aims? I mean, define it so that we'll know when the war is over. We'll know what territories we have to conquer and who we have to defeat, and know whether you can defeat it. Sometimes you can't defeat shit. Like single motherhood, we can't defeat that. That's going to accelerate because it has nothing to do with you. You're not that important. Black women and black men in America are not that important. 40 million people amongst 8 billion are not that important. You can cause a cultural movement, maybe, but a big structural changes in society, you're not that important. It's bigger than you. And you have no clue about what's in store, how it starts, or what's involved. You're going about, you got your nose down to the ground. You're not looking up and seeing there's a bigger picture, which disappoints me. Still does. It really does. I was just saying it. And it's not the first time that I've said it. Been here 6 years, and I get tired of dragging up the same old stuff. Even if it's been solved, the same old stuff. Even if you see changes, you're not content unless you're dragging up the same old talking points, same old stuff. Won't give it up because you care about your feelings. You care about your reputation instead of an effect, instead of solving a problem. Sometimes I wonder if you guys are red pill at all. I really do. Some of you. Anyway, I think I've rambled long enough. I think I got most of my thoughts out. So I'm going to close it off here. Well, this is BGS